Today's show is sponsored by the ABV Network Merchandise Shop. Pick up your logo merchandise by heading over to abvnetwork.com, clicking on Shop, and start filling your basket today. We are also sponsored by the Bar to Go. The Bar to Go offers a fully customizable carrying case that allows you to take your favorite distilled spirits or cocktail ingredients with you. Whether you're looking for something for yourself, a customized gift, or logoed items for your business gift shop, the Bar to Go can help. Check them out at thebar2go.com. That's the number 2 in the Bar to Go. Don't forget our friends at Neely Family Distillery now ship their unique distilled spirits directly to you. To order yours, simply call 859-394-3258. Tell them the ABV Network sent you. And now, on to the show.
Let's drink!
Welcome to the Bourbon Daily, the podcast about everything bourbon delivered to you every day of the week. Today on the show, we complete a bracket challenge to determine the coolest thing on a bourbon tour. My name is Miss Beka Sue. Please join me in welcoming my co-host, Steve Akeley, along with our special guests, Dylan Rozier and Della Fane.
Howdy. Hey, gang. What's up? Hello.
I can do good intros.
You nailed it.
I can do them, not all the time.
Hey, you got it this time. You got it. So we're going to be talking about the coolest thing on a bourbon tour. We'll get to that, though, in just a second. For right now, Della said there's something she wanted to talk about. What is that, Della?
Okay, this is so morbid.
Okay.
But it's kind of fine because we're in Halloween, so it can be morbid.
Yeah, sure.
Someone finds your body.
Okay. Here we go.
They cannot identify you by anything other than what is in your pocket. What's in your pocket? Okay. Well, this is interesting. This sounds like she pulled it from a game before or something like that. So, in my pocket at any time I'm out, I will have the following. I'll have my cell phone. So they would be an iPhone 12. I will have my money clip, which it's not anything fancy, but it holds my cash and credit cards. And then the last thing that you would definitely know it's me, as I would have a Burt's Bees. It's not chapstick because it's their version of that, but a Burt's Bees type. I always have that. If I don't have it, I freak out because then it's like, oh, my lips, I need it. I gotta have it. That's when I really need it, when I don't have it. So that would be the 3 things that I always carry on my person. Sometimes a switchblade, but it depends on where I'm at. Oh.
I do carry a switchblade quite often, but not every time. So that would be what. Dylan, how about you? What would be some things to look for if they're like, there's a body here, we think it's Dylan, and someone who knows you would say, well, look for this in his pockets.
It definitely wouldn't be my cell phone, because I lose that damn thing about half the time. Man, I don't know. There's so much stuff. I lose so much stuff all the time that my pockets are always rotating. But probably I almost always have my pocket knife.
There you go. The pocket
that knife. usually rotates some too. So I'll lose that every once in a while. I'll get a new one. But yeah, we got a pocket knife going.
Okay. So you even lose your pocket knife.
That's because I use it so my pocket knife is like as sharp as a butter knife usually, because I use it like a screwdriver on the farm about half the time.
That's how mine is too.
So yeah, it's I get it out and get in the middle of something and end up leaving it on a tractor tire or something, and it gets lost. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. All right, Miss Beka Sue, what are some things we would look for you? We like, we think it's Beka. We don't know. Obviously, tattoos aside, this is a pocket check.
Yeah. Like I feel like you should be able to identify me. I guess if I'm burned alive.
It's like yes.
I almost always have my crossbody purse on my body, which has business cards in that.
Okay, look for the business cards.
My Bourbon Daily business cards.
Okay.
I don't usually admit this, but I would also always have my nicotine addiction in my pocket.
Yeah, one of those.
That's the first thing my brother would say is that my sister? Because if that's not in her pocket, then that is not her.
Her jewel.
Also, yeah, we call it the judgy jewel. It's just meant for judging.
Okay.
What else would be in my pocket? I also have I have an Elderweiss keychain that I got from my sister from Germany.
Okay.
And that's what my keys are on. And it's from Germany, and no one else should. I mean, other people I'm sure have it, but I don't think
that should be an obvious one. Yeah.
That should be a pretty obvious one, is like, are those keys on her? And do they have that on it specifically?
Okay.
So like,
Della,
the
you asked the question.
Flower should have it on there.
Okay. Della, what would be some of the things we would look for from you?
Zippo Lighter.
Okay.
I'm obsessed with them. I actually had stopped at the airport coming home a week ago, and the guy's like, he looked like he was about 12 years old. He's like, well, he pulls my bag to the side, which they always do. I'm like, I never have anything bad in there. I mean, I've got pot in there, but you can fly with that. They always pull my bag to the side. So again, he pulls my bag to the side. He pulls out my 2 Zippo lighter. He goes, well, I tell you one thing, you're not getting on the plane with these torch lights. And I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? These are just regular ass cigarette lighters. And he's like, oh, so yeah, but definitely Zippo lighter, some pot, and some hand lotion, because that is how you age. That's how you can tell how old somebody is, by looking at their hands. So always hand lotion.
Always hand lotion. Gotta stay young. So there you go. There you go. You're like my mom. My mom always said that. She would say, these actresses that got like the face, facial work done, she would be like, look at their hands though.
Yeah.
Those are old hands. Yeah.
You gotta keep those hands out of the sun, and you gotta keep them moisturized.
Right. All right. Well, there you go. That's how you would recognize us. Look for those things. All right. It is now time to drink. What is everyone drinking? We're starting with Beka this time. Beka, what do you got?
You're starting with me. What's our show about? Bourbon tours?
Yes, bourbon tours.
I'm gonna go with one of our gift shop picks right now, which is Flying Rye again. All right.
Okay.
Not much.
Decent. A little sloshy though. A little sloshy. I've got Eagle Rare. This is let's say 2/3 gone. 2/3 gone. So here we go. Cork pop. Ooh, nothing there at all. She beat me there. So Becca's
not doing good.
They're not doing good. Della, what do you got?
I've got some Kentucky Spirit single barrel. Let's see. Let's get close to the mic. Nothing. Okay.
Well, that's enough to take the lead.
Sound better than all of ours.
I agree. It wasn't great, but
not on my end.
It's better than all of ours.
Yeah. All right. What do you got there, Mr. Dillon?
All right, I'm going to switch it up this time. I'm a huge Metallica fan.
Okay.
So my wife found the one bottle of allocated Black End.
The Willet one. Yeah.
Lab that they did recently. That was in our locally anyway. So we'll open that up and see how we go.
Or the one behind me.
Ooh.
Okay, there you go. That's it. That's a winner.
That was a legit. Let us know how that is. Yeah. I'd like to know how it tastes too. If you enjoy it.
I don't have a clue what to guess, but I had to get it. Metallica. I didn't have a choice.
How old is that stuff?
I don't know for sure. I honestly haven't even looked into it that much quite yet.
I think it's cool just because of Metallica, honestly.
Aren't they getting ready to release the second batch of that collaboration, Willet and Metallica? I think that's going on now. So you obviously got the first one there. So
you'd be the guy to know, Steve.
Yeah, there you go. Well, cheers, gang.
Cheers. Did Dylan win that one again?
He did. Yeah.
2 in a row. It's not
he's
bad
on a roll
for
now.
first timer.
Now he's on a roll. So what we'll do before we
get the t-shirt now.
Yeah, exactly. Before we take that break though, Dylan, we want to ask you about that one. So if we got something that's really interesting, we ask. So what did you think?
The nose on it is definitely really good. You definitely get like the floral notes from the spice and stuff of the rye, and that's definitely what you pick up initially.
Okay.
But yeah, good. I like it. Yeah,
I like it. All right. There you go. So if you see it out there, pick one up. Let them know that Dylan sent you. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, right.
All right. What we'll do next, we'll take a quick break. And then when we come back, it's bracket challenge time. We'll do that in just a few.
Hello, this is Steve Akeley, owner of the ABV Network, and let's talk for a moment about our sponsors, the people that make this show happen. First up is our friends at Moonshine University. In 2017, I completed my Executive Bourbon Steward certification at their office in Louisville. The information I learned through lead instructor Colin Blake and their team there is something that I continue to draw upon frequently in my role at the ABV Network. It truly is the standard of establishing a benchmark of knowledge of the bourbon industry. From history to production to brands and people, it's all there. Check out their full listing of programs, including Executive Bourbon Steward certification, production classes if you're considering starting a distillery, and much more at moonshineuniversity.com. I also want to talk about Neely Family Distillery. Back in May of 2018, I met Royce Neely at Limestone Branch's Craft Bourbon Festival. It ended up not only being the start of a great friendship, I started to truly learn about what makes craft whiskey so amazing. You see, I had been a bourbon drinker for over 30 years at that point, and like many people who had been drinking bourbon a long time, I was hard-coded into thinking big bourbon was where it was at and craft was on a journey to get there. Spending time with Royce and learning the things he does to make his whiskey taste better started to really get me to appreciate how things like sweet mashing, open top fermentation, pot distillation, and the grains you are using not only makes your product taste better coming off the still, but also out of the barrel as well. I still love heritage brands and they make up a bulk of my collection. But when you find a craft distiller that is truly dedicated to the craft of distilling, you are drinking some of the best whiskey out there on the market today. That's exactly what's happening at Neely Family Distillery today. Check them out on the web at neelyfamilydistillery.com, or better yet, stop by and see them at their distillery in Sparta, Kentucky. And now, back to the show.
Hello, this is Daddy Kennard, and I'm recording on the ABV Network.
Welcome back to the Bourbon Daily. Today we're doing a bracket challenge to figure out what the coolest thing is on a bourbon tour.
Yes, we are. So here's the contenders. Company history, the grain, the cooking and mashing, the still, the rickhouse, tasting, the gift shop, or finally seeing people doing their jobs. What is the coolest part of a tour? That's pretty much what's on a standard tour. Here's how they're going to match up here. So I've got them in the wrong order here. Grain, we'll take on tasting. Then we've got company history versus cooking and mashing. Then we've got seeing people doing their jobs versus the rickhouse. And then finally the still versus the gift shop. There we go. Up first, round number one. Dylan, you're going to be first. What do you think is a cooler part of a bourbon tour? Checking out the grain? Oh, we're asking a farmer this. Or the tasting of the spirits. And we've only got 3 in this one. I don't get to compete because Bo didn't show up. Bo's a no-show for tonight.
Gotcha.
So it's just you 3, not me.
Well,
we can't have
on a normal tour that I go to, I would definitely say the tasting, because typically you just see like 2 seconds of the grain, like it's in a jar, and then you're
right.
kind of I will say we're going to make the grain way more interesting, but my my answer, I guess, would be the tasting.
The tasting. Okay. All right. Della, you're next. What do you think is more interesting, grain or tasting?
I like the science behind spirits. So I would say, especially if it were a place that focused on the grain, I would say the grain.
Okay. That means grain has tied it up. It goes to you, Beka. What do you think is more interesting? Grain or the tasting? You guys certainly have a big grain component to yours because you got you got in the back, you got the big containers, whatever you call those.
Before we do this, I
Yes.
have my husband sitting right here who I could probably force into making him sit through this one episode if we wanted another one in here so we get 5 different opinions.
Sure. It's better with 5.
Do you join in for the show? This is a good one for you to be in on.
We're still gonna go to you next, Beka, and then we'll go back to the order of the
Okay.
script here after this. So then,
I've got some of our stuff here.
okay.
So
Beka,
what
it's
is
you
it?
next.
It's between the grain or the tasting,
Yes.
right?
Grain or tasting?
I'm definitely gonna go with the tasting because that's what I'm excited about when it comes to a tour. Because guess what? They can have as cool grains as they want, but if it doesn't taste good, I don't care.
Okay. I'll say this: I want to learn, and I've tasted so many spirits. By the time there's not too many distilleries I'm going to where I haven't tasted their stuff before. I like seeing what they're going to do with the grain, so I'm going to give grain a vote. I mean, it's tied up. So Royce, it's going to go to you. You come into this thing and you're immediately a tiebreaker. What do you think is cooler on a bourbon tour, distillery tour, the grain portion of the tour or the tasting at the end?
So both are definitely important. I think it's, if you're actually mashing and using, and handling grain, I think it's a big part of it to show people, especially if you're doing heirloom grains and things like that. But, there's ain't too much more important than the tasting at the end and people getting to try everything. So I'm going to go with the tasting.
The tasting. Okay. That means tasting moves on. All right. Now we're back to our regularly scheduled program. And on our notes here, you're going to be in the name where Bo goes. So round 2, that means, Royce, you're going to be first. What do you think is a better part of a tour, the company history portion or the cooking and mashing section of the tour? A lot of times you get to stick your finger in there in the mashing part. I mean, it can be big. Don't just right off say company history is the best, even though you got some of the best history in the business.
That's a tough one. You're right. I learned this from the guy that set up done all the tours and everything. He was my professor he did all the tour and set everything up at Woodford Reserve. It's incredibly important to allow people to use their organoleptic skills when they're on a tour because they remember the taste and the smells and the side of the copper and getting them into that. And then years down the road, when they smell or something, it reminds them and makes them think back, oh yeah, that was Neely again. However, the family history to me is what separates a lot of distilleries. I love knowing the history about it, how they got to this point, what they're doing. So I'm going to go with the family history.
Okay. That means family history goes up 1-0. Della, what do you think is more important on a tour, company history or the cooking and mashing section?
I'm going to say history too, because I like finding out where things came from and how long it took for it to become a success and what trials and tribulations they went to get there. So I'm going to say company history.
Company history is up to Zip. Miss Beka Sue, you're next. What do you think? Company history or cooking and mashing?
Like Royce said with like cooking and mashing, it makes people remember stuff with like this sensory stuff with, smelling and tasting it. But what we get a lot of feedback on and what a lot of people tell us makes us stand out from other places is the fact that we focus a lot on family history. And, like Limestone Branch, they also focus a lot on like family history stuff. And I do feel like when it comes to actual distilleries, and even when we went to Maker's Mark, Steve, when they talked about the family history of things, that's really what stands out stood out a lot for me with the tour itself. Like I'm not going to say I remember a lot of the other things about the tour, but I remember the cool stories that came along with the family history and the company's history itself. So I've got to go with the history.
Company history then moves on. All right. Next up is seeing people doing their job. So as you're taking the tour, okay, hey, here's so-and-so doing the bottling. So you get to meet various people or the rick house. The rick house. Usually not a lot going on in the rick house, but man, the smell of that rick house. Whew, it makes it a player, doesn't it? All right. Round number 3, Della, you are first. What do you think is better on a tour? Seeing people doing their jobs, whatever those jobs are, or the rick house?
I would definitely say seeing people do their jobs. That would be, especially if you could talk to them for a little bit. Or
a lot of times ad hoc, they'll just questions. Be like, hey, this is so-and-so that does this. So tell us about what you do. So, yeah.
And then it gives you more of a sense of where a bottle comes from, like from its humble beginnings, how many hands had to touch a bottle before it landed on the shelves in the store and how many people it took to get it there. So I would definitely say people doing their jobs.
Okay. All right. Della says people doing their jobs. Miss Beka Sue, you're next. What do you think? People doing their jobs or the rick house? What's the better part?
Okay. So this wasn't a distillery tour. It was a brewery tour. I went on one over to Coors, in Golden, Colorado. And it was really cool walking through there. And I saw the people bottling stuff up like through the glass. And I was knocking on the glass, which
it's fun, right?
No one else was doing, but I was tinking on the glass, and the guys look up and I'm like waving at them. And so they wave back. And that was like a really like it just stands out in my mind of like just I was
Sure.
so
I bet you get a different reaction. You knocking on the glass and wave into the guys, and then me knocking on the glass and wave into the guys. I bet you it's totally different reaction. Yeah.
Might be a little different.
To be fair,
I don't think they're as receptive to Steve knocking on the glass.
Me and my pretty blonde friend Kendra that were in there and we're knocking on the glass.
Boy,
and they all got
it was so neat. The guys were so nice there. Oh,
they
what
got
nice
big
guys.
smiles and they all waved back.
What
at
gentlemen,
us.
I'll tell you. They're caring guys.
As much as that was like it stands out in my brain a lot with like how cool it was, and like I loved seeing the guys working. And I do really appreciate seeing people working in the distillery while I'm there on a tour or in like any sort of place like that. But man, there's just something about like going to a rick house and like just like regardless of the size of the rick house, I am always excited about it. Whether it's the quote unquote smallest rick house in the world at Limestone Branch, or going into Buffalo Trace's rick houses or our own rick house. Like I'm always so happy going into our own rick houses.
Yeah.
No, every single time. There's never a time where I'm like, the rick. I love walking in. The first thing I do is just take a deep breath. And I'm so happy walking to a rick house every single time I walk into a rick house.
Yeah.
So I've got to go with the rick house.
That means Rick House has tied it up. Seeing people doing their jobs versus Rick House. I'm next. You know, I'll say this. We had a scare a couple of years back. Remember, within a year, there was 3 big Rick House collapses. Barton 1792 had 2 of them, and O.Z. Tyler had another one. And there was some talk that maybe customers don't get to go in Rick Houses anymore. And I was like, oh, that's to me a highlight. I think, you know, if it came down to I'm on my deathbed and they're like, okay, it's your Make-A-Wish time. What do you want to do? This will be the last time you get to do anything. I think just going and sitting in a rick house would be right up there. The sensory that you get in there, and you know, the history of thinking about it. You look at those barrels and you think, okay, this barrel here it's just 6 months old. It's probably not going to come out for 8 years. You know, what's going to be the world going to be like in 8 years? There's this neat history and things that have already happened. You see, I've been at Buffalo Trace and I've gone into the warehouse where they have most of the Pappy aging, and you're talking about barrels that are over 20 years old. And you're thinking about, gosh, what's happened in the world over that time? And the smell in there is just the best. I got to go Rick House. To me, Rick House is the one. So Rick House is up 2-1. Dylan, you're next. What do you think? Seeing people doing their jobs or the Rick House?
Yeah, I can't. When you walk into a rick house, there's not much better smell than what you get when you very first walk into a rick house. I mean, that's like slaps you in the face. I mean, that's what, to me, that's like one of the things why we got into this. I mean, that's one of the things that makes it so cool. But I mean, me being a farmer, being a blue collar guy, being able to see those people working and the people that go into making this product that we all love so much, and being able to talk to those people, I got to go with the people that's the people working and the people doing it, because there's so much knowledge there. A lot of those people have been working there forever. I mean, being able to see those people and what they do and the craft that they do is awesome. So I got to go with people working.
There you go. So it's tied up. So it comes down to this. Royce, by chance, because we had this weird start, you're a tiebreaker once again at round 3. So normally it doesn't happen that quickly for a person, but just the way it worked out tonight. So it is seeing people doing their jobs or Rick House. You're the tiebreaker. What do you think?
I mean, I personally like seeing people doing their jobs when you're on the tour, especially like getting to talk to other distillers and things like that. I know people love doing that too when they go on our tours, talking to the guys or seeing me back in there and things like that. But there is something special about going to the rick house. And I oftentimes, like when I go to a distillery, that's the main place I want to go, is to be in the rick house. Like you said, Akeley, there's no really better place like in Buffalo Trace than really old rick houses or makers where that mold and certain things are hanging down. I mean, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. There you go. So that means Rick House moves on. We'll be in our final 4. All right. Next up is the still or the gift shop. Well, this is interesting. This is as, bourbon focused as you can be, wanting to see that still, or there's other people who probably are coming in there just to go to the gift shop. So that's an interesting one. Miss Beka Sue, you're first. What do you think is more interesting, the still or the gift shop?
Okay. So this one is a hard one for me.
It is. It's tough.
Because when you first hear gift shop, I kind of automatically go to like a Mount Rushmore gift shop is the first thing you think about, where it's like kind of like dumb, like okay, a magnet, whatever, like a postcard, whatever, and
Right.
a t-shirt. But there's
The
a
book
big
Bourbon
difference.
Assignment
There's
is
a
by Steve
big
Akeley.
difference in a bourbon distillery gift shop. Things like Maker's Mark, things like Buffalo Trace, ours, everywhere. Gift shops in general, Peerless. The gift shops are where you get, usually, not always, but a lot of times, that's where you find the barrel picks.
Oh, yeah.
We only do barrel picks at our place. So like, that's always what you'll get at our place. But there's some of these places that do small batches, and the only place you can get a really cool barrel pick is in the gift shop, or a special release is in the gift shop. And I love seeing a still. I'm like, I love seeing a really cool still. Like, it's great seeing different pot stills. And I'm not obviously I'm not a big column still person. But I still can appreciate like seeing a really cool column still working. But end of the day, my favorite thing to do is drink. And so if I find a really cool barrel pick and an amazing one, like Steve, when we went to Maker's Mark, that Panna Cotta barrel pick at Maker's Mark,
that was
holy shit. Like, are you kidding me? That thing was incredible. Like the mouthfeel on it. I mean, everything about that barrel. Like I've never in my life tasted Maker's Mark like that, ever.
Right.
I have never had any Maker's Mark taste like that. And like, absolutely incredible. And as much as I want to say the still is like a brief moment in the tour where the gift shop pick that I'm bringing home with me, that lasts, well, depending on either a night or maybe a couple of weeks. So I'm going to go with the gift shop just because of the gift shop picks that generally you find in most distilleries.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I also think the gift shop is incredibly important, and you like a distillery that takes that seriously and has something unique. I think that's cool, whether it's the gift shop picks or the apparel that they've got. Just what's their gift shop all about? I think that's an important statement as to the company. But I don't think there's any bigger statement that you can make than that still. That is the heart and soul of that business. And to me, I want to see what they've got going on. I want to, and I'll be judging them. I'm not going to talk about it. But every distillery I go into, I want to see that still. And in my mind, it helps me, determine, what they've got going on, how big of a player they're going to be, what they got. Now, Adam Stumpf, when he goes, he immediately starts calculating. He wants to figure out if they run that thing 24 hours a day, how much they can make. That's just the way his mind works. He literally, anytime I talk about a distillery I've gone to, he's like, what's the still? What are they using? What size is it? And then it'll be like, oh, okay. I think they can, they could make this much. And I'm like, yeah, well, most of course aren't running 24 hours a day, but he loves to figure that out. So I think the still is really, that's a big deal to me. And I think the still is a big thing. So I'm voting for that. So it's tied up right now, 1-1. Dylan, you're next. The still or the gift shop?
I got to go with the still. I'm kind of a science geek on the back. I love just how the science behind that and how it works. And I'm always interested to see how different companies have different stills set up, whether it's a column or a pod or a hybrid of some kind.
Which copper do they have?
Right. Yeah. That stuff's super interesting to me.
I know. I
always think that's awesome. We've made an effort to kind of make our still kind of the centerpiece of our brand, and in our location, you can see it from the retail side. Our spirit safes are grain bins. Like grain bin is kind of the theme of our whole brand.
So they look like a grain bin. That's cool. Yeah.
Our spirit safes are grain bins. So
a spirit safe is hypnotizing. I don't know why, but it is.
Yeah, I don't know what it is about spirit safe, but just seeing that stuff come off the still and roll through there is awesome. So, I got to go with the still 100% on that one.
Okay, so here's where we're at. Royce, you're next. The still or the gift shop? Still's up 2-1 over the gift shop right now.
It's a tough one because the gift shop, is kind of it's a huge part, obviously, of the tour, because that's often where you start at, you end up at. It's where you get to purchase. It's how the distillery is making, money and whatnot. But to me, when I go there, I want to see the still as well. So
Yeah.
there's no bigger statement than what your still is. I mean, it's distillery,
Right.
you know, so.
All right. That means the still moves on. So our final four is going to look like this. Tasting versus company history, Rickhouse versus the still. That second matchup is ugly. Round number 5, I'm first. Tasting or company history. What do I think is more important? Yeah, this is a tough matchup too, because who we are, what we're all about, that's so very important. That can really end where you want to come back to a place time and time again if you find out about who they are, what they're doing. So that's so important. The tasting, of course, at the end of the day, you could say that's really the only thing that matters, and I get that. And but I want to say that if you're committed to making whiskey, you've got that in line. Where you can make a difference then is the little things to button up and gets like company history. So as important as I think tasting is, I'm going to say a good distillery has that down. And if they're not telling the company history in the right way, they're making a mistake. So I'll say company history. Company history goes up 1-0. Round 5, Dylan, you're next. Company history or tasting?
Yeah, that's a tough one. I think both of those are super important because they're both very important to the customer in the end. I think I got to go with company history probably, because I mean, that's the card our heritage is agriculture and coming up, and we're going to transfer that over to the distilling side. But I think displaying that and ingraining that emotional connection with the customer, I think that ties over into the tasting too. So I got to go with company history.
It's not bad because the tasting ultimately is what it is. You've put it out,
Right.
You put it in the bottle. You're not changing that for the tour. Whereas the tour,
Right.
if you hit on the company history in the right way,
Yeah.
you can get a customer for life. The tasting, like I said,
Right.
it's a tough call. I get it, but that's just so right now. Company history is up 2-0 over tasting. What do you think, Royce?
Tasting is incredibly important. However, I still have to lean towards that, that company history, the history of what you have going on and where you've been and really kind of the direction where you're going.
There you go. That means company history moves on. All right. Rickhouse versus the still. Here's where it gets super ugly in my mind. Dylan, you're first. Rickhouse or the still? What do you think is more important?
And I don't know. We're getting down to the hard ones now.
Yeah.
I got to go with the still again. I think the still is awesome. I think you can do so much stuff to change your product there and change up on what you're doing and stuff. I think that's cool. I'm kind of a science geek. I like how that kind of the science background that kind of goes into that. I think that's awesome. So I got to go with the still.
All right, Royce, the Rickhouse or the still? What do you think's more important?
Man, this is a rough one. I mean, obviously, it's like the main thing that we want to show off on our tours is the still. It's in my logo. I've got to go with the. I still think the still is the most important part.
All right, Della, what do you think, the still or the Rickhouse?
Being the forever novice that I am, I'm still going to go with the still because on the few bourbon tours that I've been on, it just looks so cool. Like I feel like a kid looking at something that I might have seen in an old movie. Like it looks like some science fiction sort of thing. So I'm going to go.
I agree. There's something special there. And you know what? Even on the big tours, the still is special because you go to Jim Beam and you see the amount of whiskey that is coming out. At one time, and it's hitting those spirit safes, and you're like, oh my gosh, the amount that's going through there. You begin to start to get an idea of the size and scope of them. So it's cool. So it comes down to this. Our finals looks like this: company history versus the still. What's more important on a bourbon tour? Royce, you're first.
History versus the still.
History versus the still.
Funny thing is, oftentimes the still is part of the company history. I got to go with the company history, Akeley.
Company history goes up 1-0. Della, what do you think? Company history or the still?
Easy company history.
Company history is suddenly up 2-0. Miss Beka Sue, you can end this thing right here, right now with company history vote, or you can give still life in this game.
Yeah, I'll say this. and this is coming from someone who, I primarily, I do a little bit of everything in our distillery. I work in the back a little bit. I pick our barrels, but mostly I work in the gift shop. And what sells bottles the best is not our still, it's our company history. Even people who didn't taste anything, if they come in and they hear about our company history and Papa's there, they see him on a bottle and they talk to Papa a little bit. They don't even taste anything. And we might show them the still, but they don't buy a bottle because they saw the still. They buy a bottle because they're talking to Papa. They heard our company history. They hear about our moonshines and they just go, we'll just we didn't taste, but we'll just buy stuff because of that.
Yeah.
And so to me, it is company history. It's way more important. Like the still's awesome, but company history, it can sell stuff kind of regardless.
Right.
So
I agree with you. And ultimately company history wins. It's over. Company history wins. I will say this for me and probably, my contingents, people who are really into bourbon like I am, the still is probably more important. But that being said, for the masses, I think we picked the right one today. I think company history for the large group is what can sell bottles. So I think that's the most important thing. So there you go. Company history is our champ. Congratulations to me on writing a great show. We'll wrap this one up.
Jesus, Steve.
Hey, I got to pat myself on the back. No one else is going to. All right, we'll wrap this one up as we always do by talking about where people can find us. We're going to start with you, Dylan. Where can people find you?
Yeah, so you can find us at ourfarmdistilling.com. Right now it's kind of our splash page. We're launching our full website here pretty quick. You can also find us on Facebook and Instagram at Our Farm Distillery.
All right. How about you, Royce?
Find me on Facebook and Instagram at Neely Family Distillery and at neelyfamilydistillery.com.
All right, Della.
You can find me on Instagram and Untapped under 6 feet of dynamite.
All right, Miss Beka Sue.
You can find me on Twitter and on Instagram at Miss Beka Sue, 1K, no C's.
All right, for me, I'm an easy guy to find. I'm at Steve Akeley on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook. I've got a website, steveakeley.com. We've also got a company website. That thing's abvnetwork.com. Check it out because everything that we do is out there. We have all of our events. Maybe you want to attend a tasting with us. We're available and out there at abvnetwork.com. Miss Beka Sue, anything else to say before we get out of here?
I'd just like to remind the audience to please give us a 5-star review that includes comments. It helps when people find the show, which is very important to us. If you like what we're doing, we ask you please visit our Patreon page at patreon.com/the ABV Network.
Great job today, gang. For our audience, we'll have a brand new show for you tomorrow. Looking forward to that. Until then, take care, everybody. See ya.
Bye.
See ya.
Bye.
Peace. Before we finish the show, let's chat for a moment about Moonshine Still Pro. Moonshine Still Pro has a full line of products to help the home distiller. Whether you just want to experiment on a small scale on the stove in your kitchen or try your hand at a bigger setup in the backyard, Moonshine Still Pro can help. They have different still offerings as well as accessories and even grains from Goldstone Mill to help you make whiskey on par with what you get from your favorite distillery. They can even assist with a DIY still project by supplying some of the parts you can't make yourself. Check them out at moonshinestillpro.com. At the ABV Network, we're lucky enough to have some great friends. Amongst those friends is the Goldstein family, owners of Goldstone Mill. Goldstone Mill is a full-service mill offering a variety of heritage and heirloom grains. Their unique approach of working with mills around the country allows them to offer you affordable shipping opportunities to meet the unique needs of your distillery or brewery. They will consult with you to ensure the grains you are selecting meets the unique flavor profiles you are looking for. If you are a home brewer or distiller and you're looking for the grains that your local distillery or brewery uses, Goldstone Mill is the place to look. Check them out on the web at goldstonemill.com, call them at 217-254-6613, or shoot them an email at hello@goldstonemill.com.
The Bourbon Daily is part of the ABV Network. For more information or to become a sponsor, please visit abvnetwork.com. Thanks for listening and cheers.
This has been a Steve Akeley production.